Welcome to this week's Artist on Art. I am your host, Nada Milkovich, and it's my great pleasure to be speaking with Nico Secunda tonight here right now. And we're going to be talking about the Huichols, and I'm really excited. Thank you so much for coming up here tonight. Nico, welcome.
Thank you for having me on.
Nico is quite the guy, I got to tell you. For your young age, Nico has done quite a bit. First of all, he's a recent graduate here of UCSC. Congratulations.
Thank you.
In the digital photography program.
That's right, yep.
And Nico is been also a part, not only with coming up here at UCSC, you're also a native. You grew up here.
I did, yeah. Santa Cruz is my home.
But Nico's dad, Brant Secunda, has been working with the Huichol for 30 years?
Right, over 30 years. He left New York, where he was born and grew up in New Jersey, and left there the day after his 18th birthday, and found his way across the United States and eventually down to Mexico, and met the Huichol Indians there, and ended up building a long relationship and being adopted by the tribe after quite a life-harrowing journey there to start with. He was rescued, actually, in the middle of the Sierra Madre Mountains, where he was hiking and trying to find them. You know, it was a 5-day walk, and he was rescued and brought back to the village and adopted and lived there for 12 years among the people.
Wow. And then he left.
Then after he went through a traditional apprenticeship, so he was adopted by one of the elder shamans there, Don Jose Matsua, and trained as a shaman and put through a traditional apprenticeship for 12 years. And then after that time, Don Jose sent him up to America and to the modern world to help teach and share about the culture around the world. So since then, he's been traveling all around the world to different conferences and seminars and retreats and teaching about the Huichol culture and Huichol shamanism throughout the world.
So, Nico, your dad, Brant Secunda, he started back in 1979.
Right, that's
way before you were born.
Way before. Yep, yeah, I was not born yet. He started the 1979 Dance of the Deer Foundation, and so through that he helped teach the teachings of the Huichols, and also helped to support a number of family members in the tribe. And over those 30 years, it's turned into supporting over 600 people in 3 villages, and continuously growing and more and more support.
So, Nico, before the show, you were telling me that a big part of your studies here were to take pictures of the Huichol tribe.
Right. So my father's connection, being very close to the tribe, and me having been born and really going there since I was just a few months old, and every year going about 4 or 5, 6 times a year, I grew up as a member of the tribe, really, and consider myself a member of the Huichol tribe. And because of that connection, you know, that I was able to be able to take their photos and be able to take photographs of not only the people, but also of their ceremonial practices and their way of life and their agricultural methods and a lot of their day-to-day life, which usually nobody has access to. And even, you know, Mexicans aren't allowed to wander into the Huichol territory. It's a privatized area. And so I was very in a special position to be able to do that. And at UCSC, I worked with a number of professors here to help guide me on that journey. Such
as Louis Watts, who I mentioned because he has an exhibition at the Cessnon right now with his work both in, I believe, in Harlem, New York, and in New Orleans, and Cuba.
Cuba as well.
Yeah, so he does these, what you might say, documentarian photo exhibitions with some sociological kind of information that's conveyed in his photographs. You also were saying that you worked with Norm Locks?
Right, yeah. Norman and Louis are both great professors, and I worked with them over my whole time here, and really they guided me, and it was a gift to be able to work with them, and for them to really push me to take advantage and be able to extend my photographic skills, but also to be able to really gain a window into the culture and through photography share it.
Right. So part of what I was thinking about for us to talk about tonight is you are the co-founder of the Huichol Foundation.
Right.
And the launch of the Huichol Foundation is again happening this Sunday at the Museum of Art and History here in Santa Cruz. And there have been many different activities involved with helping the Huichol. Particularly, the Dance of the Deer Foundation has been the vehicle, I guess, for this over the last 30 years. And you're also the vice president of Shaman Organic Chocolates. Like, when did you do that? When you were like in high school? Or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
I was joking, but you're not. That's great.
Yeah, so we have a lot of things going on, a lot of projects, and Shaman Chocolates was founded about a little over 8 years ago, and 100% of the profits from that go back to help support the people and help with education. We put the first Huichol through university, and she's just finishing now. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, is the chocolate coming from?
The chocolate is not made by the Huichol people. It grows a little farther south, but they use it traditionally. They used to trade with other indigenous peoples like the Aztec and the Maya for cacao, and so it's very sacred to them, and they use it in their daily life, in their spiritual and ceremonial practices as well. So that's why we thought it's a perfect thing. Plus, everybody loves chocolate.
Right. So, Nico Secunda, tell us a little bit about how. Sorry about that. How do you help support a society? How do you go about, without being patronizing perhaps, or being here we are to save the day kind of thing, like I'm the white guy and here I am, but it doesn't sound like that's the kind of relationship you have at all with them. No. And that your foundation is kind of unique. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the Huichol Foundation came about really because we saw a need for greater global support and awareness for the Huichol people and for cultural preservation in general. And we realized that we couldn't do it ourselves. Basically, we needed more involvement with the community and global community really to help bring awareness. And so that's where the Huichol Foundation came about. And we spent a long time. It's been about a 5-year process building the kind of the foundation of the projects and working on planning out how everything works. And like you said, being sensitive to different issues. Many nonprofits have great hopes and ideas, but it's just not thought through or applicable for wherever they are trying to do good things. And again, because of our understanding of the culture and deep ties to the culture, we felt like we had the opportunity to do that. Nobody else would be able to do that. And also we had the access. So we kind of felt an obligation almost. And so we took, like you said, we focus really on trying to bring what they want and be able to support them in the way that they want. So we work with tribal elders and leaders to talk with them about what kind of education do they want for their children. One of the projects we have is an indigenous language school. And so we want to support their native language, and so the next generation gets that language passed on. That's one thing that they are concerned about, is losing their language. Most Huichols are bilingual and speak Spanish and Huichol, but you can see changes start to happening very little bit, but the foreshadowing is there. So
it's globalization, baby. It happens. Right. It happens everywhere. It's Definitely. Like only the most remotest, hill people get to hang on to their culture. Seems like. Yeah, and they still live. No electricity, no running water. I mean, very remote. Very rugged area and a hard lifestyle, but they're still so happy, so joyous. They have a lot of things that people in the modern world that have everything are missing still. Well, I'd like to hear about that, Nico Secunda, here to talk about his launching of the Huichol Foundation that's happening this Sunday. What was the time for that?
That's 6:30.
6:30 at night.
Right.
And there'll be food.
Yeah, we've had a great outpouring of support from local sponsors. There's a host of sponsors there that'll be providing food and drinks. There's the Penny Ice Creamery, Verve Coffee, El Palomar, Whole Foods. The list goes on, and so we're very thankful to them. and it should be a great event.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit, Nico, tell us about the Huichol for our lovely audience that maybe, first of all, it's spelled Huichol.
Right, everybody's a Huichol, the Huichol, so we always
it's a tough one.
Yeah, so the Huichol tribe is located in central western Mexico in the Sierra Madre Mountains, and that's their traditional territory that they've lived there for thousands of years. And they never had a warrior class. So when the Spanish came, they went up into the mountains, into their pilgrimage and ceremonial places, and weren't actually, nobody found them really until the 1700s, 200 years later. And luckily, they didn't have a warrior class. I mean, otherwise they probably wouldn't be around. So that's really what saved them. And the Huichol have a very deep spiritual practices still. Their indigenous way of life is still intact. They're considered one of the only native peoples to have their pre-Columbian traditions still intact today. So still living as they have, still growing their own corn and beans, still going to different sacred places around the Sierra and practicing their ceremonial way of life and making their art, which is a big, big part of their daily life and their culture and communication also within the culture.
So part of what Dance of the Deer Foundation, which your dad started again back in 1979, that's Brant Secunda, is taking these shamanistic practices and taking them to different places.
Right. So
New Zealand, perhaps?
Yeah, we're going there in February.
Crete. I was taking a quick little...
We go to Italy every year. We go in the Alps there, beautiful places. We go to Germany a number of times a year, Alaska, Mount Shasta. We go to Japan. We've been numerous times, and we really try to, in a global scale, practice what the Huichol way of life is. And they go to so many places of power, what they consider places of power in their, whether it be mountain or a lake or a river, and to connect with nature. And that's really, so we go to these beautiful places in nature all around the world and help people in the modern world experience a connection to nature that's deep-rooted in the indigenous way of life.
And so, Nico, tell us a quick little itinerary of one of your trips. Let's say Greece, Crete in particular. I'd like to go there.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah,
that was actually one of the first places I went. I was 6 weeks old when I went there the first time, and it's a beautiful place right on the Mediterranean, and it's the culture is very similar to the Huichol in some ways. It's still, they're very close to the land, very close to the food they grow, and so in that way that it's almost like a parallel, a mirrored of the Huichol people. And so when we're there, we meet with the people who come there, and we practice. We go on pilgrimages to different places of power. We do different exercises that the Huichols practice in their daily life to connect with the fire or the water, especially in Crete, the water, for instance, and really work on different ways to connect with nature.
So tell us how you do that. Tell us an exercise.
Right, so some of the exercises work with giving away negativity, for instance. So working with the 4 directions and giving away a negative aspect or emotion in each direction. And it's very simple, and the Huichol people practice it, and yet it's very applicable to people in the modern world. Who doesn't want to be less negative? Who doesn't want to give away things that are holding them back from being a better person, more complete, more at home with themselves or with their environment? And so those are some of the types of practices. Other practices might work with the fire and the light to bring light into the people's hearts and souls and brighten their spirit. Again, something I think all of us would like more of.
It sounds fabulous. You are listening to Artist on Art. I am your hostess, Nada Milkovich, and I'm here with Nico Secunda. He is quite the young, accomplished man. It's really, really nice to meet you. He is vice president of the Shaman Organic Chocolates. He is involved with the Dance of the Deer Foundation, and he's co-founder of the brand new Spankin' Foundation, although it's been a long time coming. But it's launching this Sunday, and it's the Huichol Foundation. And a lot of the work that you're doing to support the Huichol Indians is helping their art to get out.
It is.
And so tell us, Nico, you were telling me that the art is very much connected to the culture of the Huichol people. There are symbols that you'll find. Describe to us a little bit, because Huichol art is very distinctive.
Right.
So
the Huichol art, I mean, many people know, and it's become more and more popular. And people, you see it around the world in galleries and museums, and so it's very beautiful, and people recognize the beauty of it. Some things that they don't know about it are that...
Well, wait a second now. First, just to give people a little bit of an idea of what, in their mind's eye, what to look like. There's a lot of triangles.
Right.
Bright colors.
And
geometric.
A lot of geometric, and what it would look like is geometric, but often they are symbols found in nature. And so a lot of the art has to do with mirroring nature and bringing nature alive. And so the bright colors are colors found in nature, with the flowers or the trees and a lot of greenery. In the Huichol territory, it's very lush in their world, in their villages. And so the art, though, has a deep meaning in that what's used in the symbology of the art is not just a symbol as the way they see it. And to start with, even an unspoken law in the Huichol culture is that you have to have a vision or a dream of a design or the artistic story that you might draw out in a yarn painting, for instance, which they're famous for, or beadwork, like the bracelet I'm wearing. And so to start with, it's already connected with the culture. It's already connected with their cultural mythology and symbology. And then from that part, they say that what's represented in the art comes alive and is transmitted through the art. And so that the idea is that if, for instance, there's a symbol of an eagle in a bracelet, a beaded bracelet, or a woven bag, they say it's not just a representation of the eagle. It actually transmits the essence of the eagle. And in that way, the art becomes a form of communication. And that's what, in their mythology, originated with as a form of communication, for people to describe themselves and their history and their background, and through the art. And so that's still, Don Jose, my father's teacher, often said that, we have our universities here like UCSC, and for the Huichols, their art is their university. It's how they learn. It's their books that they write is in the art.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a deep. There's many levels to it. Many levels to the art, and the more you are a part of the culture and understand it, it just keeps going one level after the next, and it's a beautiful thing to see, and it's one of the greatest ways that they've been able to maintain their culture. Through the art, there's so many things that are supported through that. It keeps the communities together when they're able to make the art. It's sharing the stories and their history and their visions, and really the essence of who each artisan is through the art.
So the artwork involves a lot of beadwork,
right.
A lot of yarn. You're saying basket weaving, ceramics?
Ceramics,
or terracotta, more.
Well, when my father first went down, one of the reasons he went was to meet the Huichols to learn pottery, and it was the Back to the Earth movement in the 60s and 70s, and so that's where he was looking for. And when he got there, they said, "Oh, you're about 50 years too late. We don't do so much of our own pottery anymore." So they don't do as much of their own pottery for daily use, but still a little bit. And a lot of the art, though, is the beadwork and the weavings and woven bags, embroidery. They make beautiful embroidered bags, and very fine work. What you can do when you don't have TV or Facebook, I guess.
When you got the time to do it. Nico is here to talk to us about the launch of the Huichol Foundation, and tell us some of the visions that you have for the Huichol Foundation. Well,
it's really, like I said, about bringing global support to cultural preservation, and specifically the Huichols, because of our connection. And so we have a number of projects that they're aiming to start, one being a language school to help maintain their traditional language, another one being Artisan Fund to help bring them the different materials they need to make the art and make it more accessible for them to do that. And that's a way for them to be also economically sound as they become more and more part of the modern world. There's other programs such as Environmental Protection Fund to help with environmental awareness and protecting their lands. There's also projects that are involved with the health, so things that support their traditional health and way of life. I mean, they are very healthy people. They're still, Don Jose lived to be 110 years old, and that's not uncommon. You know, a lot of people live to 190 years old, and so their lifestyle is very, very healthy, and we want to support that. And I think the modern world can learn from that as well. Almost in many ways, the modern world is going back and cycling towards indigenous ways of life and understanding it more and more. And so that's one of the ideas behind the foundation, is to preserve the ancient culture, because there's a lot of things we don't even know yet, which are important for us to learn in the modern world and to sustain for the modern world, and Western people all around the world, but also for the Huichol people. You know, if they can maintain their ancient way of life and the values that they have as the world gets smaller, that's really our goal, and to support that. So even if there are changes in the future, we want to make sure that their cultural integrity is upheld through the future and throughout generations to come.
So Nico, you're saying around 30,000 Huichol Indians left today. Yeah,
so there's still a very large population,
but kind of small
and large at the same time. Yeah,
right.
They're very decentralized, so there's no main village. Each village might have 200 or 300 people at the most, and they're spread out throughout the Sierra Madre Mountains, and about usually 2-3 hours walk between each village. And between the villages is where they grow their corn, on the hillsides in the jungle, and it's a very beautiful, beautiful area. So yeah, there's still many left, and we want to keep it that way. And we also want to make sure that through the art they can really continue to share their culture with the world. You know, the art is a great communication tool for them. People enjoy the beauty of it, but really there's a lot more, like I said, behind the art. And so part of the Huichol Foundation is through education, we want to support their education and local impacts directly within Huichol villages, but also we want to spread the education about the Huichol people around the world, and in that way, again, cycling back to more awareness and more support for the culture.
Oh, that's just wonderful. Nico Secunda, thank you so much for coming up tonight and talking with us.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best. If this sounds really exciting to you, like it does to me, go to the huicholfoundation.org. That's HUICHOL foundation.org. Get your ticket for this Sunday's launch. It sounds like there's going to be, is it Huichol?
There'll be a large exhibit of Huichol art. There'll be great presentations speaking about the vision of the foundation and how we hope to get people involved and create sustainable impacts for cultural preservation.
It's fabulous. And if you want to go somewhere like Crete or Italy or one of these great places,
you can look at shamanism.com for information on that.
Yeah, or danceofthedeer.com too.
Right.
You can go to either place. Nico, I wish you all the best, and thank you for your work.
Thank you so much for supporting us.
Bringing the Huichol here to Santa Cruz. We are so blessed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess it was all in the bigger vision of your dad.
Yep, carrying it on, carrying it forward.
Yeah. Thanks again, Nico.